What is up, everyone? Now, a lot of you guys are probably wondering, Corey, didn't you already review this movie like 9 months ago? Wow, I can't believe this movie is already 9 months old. Well, yes, I did already review this movie way back when it first released. However, since I moved channels, I've actually started to really take a different structure. Like, I've been really focused on my structure. I'm honestly not quite satisfied with my older review. I feel like I didn't do the movie justice, and so I decided to give this movie its proper review that it deserves. So here is my redo of my Inside Out review. Now, I've made it extremely clear that I have fallen in love with this movie. In fact, it is honestly my favorite movie of all time. And I've been doing a lot of thinking about that, and if this isn't my favorite movie of all time, it's definitely one of them. I absolutely love this movie. And the point of this review is mainly to explain why I love this movie so much. For those who've been living under a rock, Inside Out is about this 11-year-old girl named Riley who's just moved from Minnesota to San Francisco, and we get to see her emotions personified as characters. We get to see her joy and anger, fear, disgust, and sadness, and they actually sort of work in a control room, and they actually guide her through everyday life. I've stated a couple times before that this movie is genius of a premise. This movie is very, very metaphoric. There are a ton of metaphors in this movie, and lots of things to analyze in this movie. There are a ton of metaphors in this movie, and I've actually been spending days a while ago actually watching the movie and studying each scene and looking at all these metaphors. One thing I love about this movie is that it's very psychological, and there are a lot of metaphors. There are a lot of even tiny little references that I never even noticed on my first viewing. And the great thing is that since this movie is so psychologically correct, it's actually really great for education. Yes, I find this movie entertaining, but I've actually been hearing a lot of stories about how parents and teachers have actually been using this movie to actually educate their children about psychology and mental illnesses and about emotion. And I feel like that, considering Pixar has actually made a very educational movie, that's a sign that they're doing something right. This is actually a really educational movie for your kids. The fact that the movie is so it's a very psychological movie, and the fact that if you actually do research about the human brain, how it works, and then you watch this movie, you'll realize there's a lot of things that actually happens in this movie that's actually illustrated in literally abstract ways. Now, if you don't understand what I mean by this, is that, for example, when you go to sleep at night, your brain actually automatically processes all the memories that you gathered during that day, and then it files it into long-term memories, and sometimes will project it as a dream, and that actually happens in this movie. Or there's a scene where a character goes to sleep, and then another character says, alright, we're going to REM. REM, or REM, stands for rapid eye movement, which is actually the stage of sleeping when you're actually in a very, very deep sleep. So many metaphors and so many references and how psychological it is. It's just really nice. I just enjoy analyzing this movie because it's really fun to notice all these references and all this stuff. And the cast is perfect, as well as excellent writing in this movie. Amy Poehler as Joy, Lewis Black as Anger, Bill Hader as Fear, Mindy Kaling's Disgust, and Phil Smith as Sadness. This is such an excellent cast. I'm also really curious to know what your favourite emotion of the 5 is. My personal favourite is Joy because I actually relate to her the most. And the reason for that is because I'm a very optimistic person. In pretty much every single situation I'm in, I always seem to find the bright side of things, even by complete accident. So the fact that Joy is a very optimistic character, I just relate to her the most. But the rest of the emotions are also perfectly well written. Not to mention that this movie is a very funny movie. Sometimes it just tries to make you laugh with a joke, and sometimes they use psychological jokes that I think are hilarious, like the Triple Dent Gum commercial. You're welcome, people who've just seen the movie and you've been spending the last 9 months trying to get that song out of your head. You're welcome. And the animation is gorgeous. And I think one of the reasons for it is because a lot of the emotions actually look like as if they were made by tiny little particles and little glowing effects. And that really feels like it gives the movie an overall polish, which is why I feel like it's one of the best looking animated films I've ever seen in my life. But there's another thing I actually really noticed about this movie, and it helps with all the metaphors and stuff, and that is the color grading or correction of this movie. In the beginning of the movie, Riley is not exactly in a pleasant mood at the moment, and to help illustrate that, the whole room is sort of a grey, dull, bleak sort of feeling. However, towards the movie, when we get to our happy ending and everything, the house becomes a more warm and inviting area, and it becomes more warm and cozy and more comforting and a more inviting environment. And that's something that's excellently done with the color grading and the color correction of this movie. And you can't just simply do that with animation, but I just love that the director and a lot of other people have actually been seriously considering the color grading for this movie to really sell its effect, and it's perfectly executed. And the score by Michael Cicchino, who's actually been doing a lot of great scores lately, but I actually recognize him from other stuff like the score from Mission Impossible 3. And this is one of my favorite scores of all time. A lot of my other favorite scores are big, epic, fun, energetic, hyper kind of music. Like, I love stuff like the Mission Impossible score, that sort of thing. However, this one is actually a more slow piano piece that I've actually learned to play myself, because it's a very simple piano piece and it just plays very slowly, and it is a very, very beautiful piece, and I think the soundtrack overall is an amazing soundtrack. For these overall reasons, it's why I love Inside Out so much. I love the metaphors, I love the psychology of the movie, I love how funny it is, the animation is gorgeous with amazing character models, the cast, the writing is excellent, and to really sell how much I love this movie, not only do I see it in theaters, not only do I have so many videos on YouTube talking about this movie, not only did I buy it on Blu-ray the instant it came out, but just yesterday I actually got in the mail from Amazon.com a massive Inside Out poster, and it's going on the wall. I was actually extremely tired about having just boring plain walls for the background of my YouTube video, so I actually ordered a couple of movie posters. So far, I've only got this one, but I do have another one that I'm waiting for. And speaking of relatively new animated Disney movies, I am actually going to the cinemas next week to see a preview screening of Disney's Zootopia. It's not quite out in Australia yet here, but next week there's going to be a preview screening and I will be going to see that. And I will bring you my review for Zootopia the instant I see it, so look forward to that. I'm also going to review all of the Mission Impossible movies, so look forward to those as well. Until then, I'm Corey, signing off. Hasta la vista, baby.